back to the podcast. We are here with Mr. Chris McShanag, who is from MedVA, Medical Virtual Assistants, BizVA, Business Virtual Staffing, and MyOrthoVA. And Chris is a transformational leader. He brings extensive experience in delivering successful business solutions through innovative and scalable solutions. He's an entrepreneur. He's been in startups and all these industries, healthcare, mining, utilities, and consulting. And we are going to be talking today about BizVA and quality remote staff and so much more. So, Chris, glad to be speaking with you.
You too, Robert. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your listeners today.
And I appreciate you as well. And so you have all these cool things going on. You've accomplished so much, but what is your current focus and your passion?
Really, my current focus and passion is making a difference in the business community and really helping out doctors, dentists, and veterinary in the medical space to really be able to achieve the best they can and take care of their patients, as well as on the BizVA space, really coming alongside and supporting business owners, small, medium-sized entrepreneur, high-growth businesses to really handle their staffing needs. I mean, our goal here at MedVA and BizVA is to really take care of that heavy lifting of staffing and your resource needs to allow you to really do the dreaming of growing your business.
Wonderful. And I know a few doctors who have been really frustrated with their staff, right? It's tough to find them and to keep them. And then a bunch of years ago, I heard something that was just really depressing and discouraging. This doctor told me that he doesn't make money until like 2 p.m. every day. Like he's just like losing money because of all the staff and all the overhead. And then there's a little window of time between seeing patient after patient and just, doing like 17 jobs at once, finally making money. And so is this whole idea of like virtual assistants for dentists and doctors, is this new? Because I've been hearing a lot about it in the last few years. So is it a new thing or is it just coming across my radar more?
I think it's somewhat of a new thing. I mean, it's been out there, but the pandemic really accelerated it. I think for a period of time, people and patients and others were a little nervous about the concept of remote. And we've been able to experience the benefits of remote as we came through the pandemic. And now, obviously, folks are a lot more comfortable with it on the medical side. And on the business side, it's been a well-renowned thing for a period of time now. And so, I think folks are getting comfortable and really seeing the benefits. I mean, as an example, my clients, we're experiencing about an $80,000 a year annual savings on their staffing per VA. But on top of that, about a 40% productivity lift. And some seeing up to a 50% lift in revenue. So you start thinking about, I can get more done with less and drive greater productivity and increase my bottom line. And so to your point, our goal is really to get that doctor to be making money at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, not 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wonderful. Sounds like an excellent dream to have. And so how is this both less expensive and more productive? Like is that possible?
It's a great question. And so because we have a dedicated team, our model is a little different than others. We actually dedicate our VAs full time to our clients. And so what we do is we go to work, we recruit the best VAs out of the Philippines and Latin America. We put them through dedicated training and compliance, and then we provide them ongoing coaching. We have VA managers to support our clients and support our VAs. And we have an internal university called MedVA and BizVA University that provides ongoing training. And then we provide the VAs to our clients and our doctors and dentists as on a managed services model. And by doing that, it really makes a difference because we're coming alongside and supporting them. And as dedicated resources, we're providing them ongoing training. So they're able to be more productive. They're working remotely from home. They're not being the natural distractions that you would see in an office environment. And so therefore, you're able to get more phone calls done from receptionist services, more administrative tasks taken care of, and that translates into more patients, more clients, and hence more revenue.
Wonderful. And so I'm making all sorts of mental notes just about these reminders, these sort of business fundamentals of like hiring good people and then onboarding them really well, training them really well. And then you're also mentioning kind of the ongoing training to make sure that they stay sharp and they continue in learning and they're on the cutting edge. And so when you come in and you provide these sorts of solutions, what are the hangups? What are the roadblocks and obstacles? What are the difficulties when it comes to transforming these doctors and dentist office?
Yeah, I think the main obstacle that we find is folks are a little skeptical, will this work? But what I will tell you, Robert, is about 10 to almost 20% of our clients are adding additional services every month. And so it's really that first hurdle of getting started and being comfortable with having remote workers. I think we've been forced into that through the pandemic. Now we're comfortable with the concept of folks being remote workers within our borders. Now getting to that next step, particularly on the provider side, but also on the business side, because I think that's a unique concept for folks to really leverage folks elsewhere. But what I would tell my clients is, think about, you now have access to a global market of employees that you can work for and you can tap into at a fraction of the cost, that are focused on really being dedicated to you. And as you mentioned earlier, a lot of my clients come to us with their staffing problem saying, I can't find anybody. If I find them, they cost a lot, or they don't turn up to work. And so what we do is we take care of that, right? We handle all the benefits, we handle all of the work, and we provide the VAs to our clients and ensure that they're responsive and supportive and productive.
Wonderful. And so you're making me think, well, there's basically like three possibilities, right? There's the old way of doing it, there's they try it themselves, and then there's your way. And you think about the old-fashioned way of hiring, you're basically at the mercy of who happens to be in the area, who happens to be
Correct.
looking for a job, who happens to apply, and you don't necessarily have the luxury of looking around the whole world and finding these people who are exactly trained to do this sort of thing. And then there's the kind of option number two, where they say, okay, well, the pandemic happened and this remote work thing, it's more accepted and mainstream. I'll just go on some job site and I'll just post some generic job description. And I'm sure there's like a million ways that can go wrong, right? You
Right.
don't have a good job listing, you don't have a good vetting process, or one of many other things. So when they're pre-trained and pre-vetted by you, then that kind of like removes a lot of the usual problems that happen from just finding people from all these other sorts of ways. And so yeah. And so since we're on a podcast, it's always fun to jump into stories, especially because stories are your chance to really maybe humble brag and explain how you do a really good job at some of these things. So what comes to mind for you as far as some of these maybe like before and after success stories?
So great choice. And thank you for the kind of that lead in. So I have a client, and they in the construction space, and they were struggling that they couldn't get people to answer the phones. They had a lot of situations where somebody would call them, and if they didn't get an answer immediately, they would go on to the next competitor. And so they were losing business, as well as they were losing business from referral partners because their referral partners couldn't get in touch with them. So we came along board and we actually took care of all of their phone calls, not only during regular work hours, but then after hours. And so they saw a huge uptick in their productivity and their return rate on closing deals. But then they realized, let's take it a step further. And so they said, well, they had hired somebody who their job was to essentially go around to all the referral partners, just encourage them, say, hey, we're still in business, we like working with you, bring them some donuts, some bagels, whatever it is. And so that person decided to leave, and they're in the LA area. And so what we did is we said, well, let's give you a virtual assistant, and we'll set you up a DoorDash account. Now they have a virtual assistant that reaches out to all of their referral partners, leverages DoorDash to deliver the food to their office, schedules a Zoom meeting, comes on, tells them, thank you very much, educates them on what's going on in the industry and in particular things in the construction space. They're able to get 2 to 3 times as many appointments done in a day because that person is not driving around in traffic, going from place to place. And hence they've increased their sales by 300 to 400%, just purely by able to take that phone call in, get the responsiveness, and then be able to build those rapports with their ambassadors or their referral partners. And so now you've got a situation where what would cost them $30, $40 an hour is on average cost them $10, and they're getting 3 to 4 times X on the results. And so that's a perfect example of how a virtual assistant can really help you, or just a team member that's really dedicated to you. And so we use the word virtual assistant because they're virtually, but really what we encourage our clients to do is say they're part of your team. They're an extension of your team, and they're leveraged to the best of your ability to focus on what's most important for you.
So those are some very helpful thoughts to think about. That I'm kind of going backwards and retracing my steps into my mind here. That that term virtual assistant, you're so right that it's kind of a loaded term, and that's just what we've been using this whole time. And I only really jumped into having a team like that maybe like 4 years ago or so, after just like a couple of decades of like trying to do so much myself. And finally, I bit the bullet, and that's kind of like a negative sounding phrase, but I finally hired some people. But then once I got them, I realized, okay, they're not just freelancers. They're like people that I can go and message and like give bonuses to, and then check in with and see if they need any extra training or software or skills, or just have these conversations. It's easy to think as like virtual assistants, like they're robots or machines, but they're people too. And you can apply all of those same sorts of human resources strategies on them. And then also, it seems like you've mentioned a couple of times here that there's like this untapped opportunity with all these businesses as far as just having better phone support, right? And inbound and outbound and after hours. And then also just this idea of, well, if you're stuck about what a VA can really do for you, is what's the list, right? Who are the people that they can just kind of go through and iterate through? Like you're mentioning referral partners. And even like a couple of weeks ago, I talked to a dude who was teaching like virtual assistants for like real estate entrepreneurs, and said like call all of your tenants. So that's just like something, a mental note I'm making in my mind, of just like there's that block of people that you really should be talking to on a recurring basis, and just put the virtual assistant to work, because you probably haven't even touched base with them in such a long time. And so these are some really helpful and valuable things for us to consider. And so is the phone kind of answering thing, is that like the go-to for you, or the low-hanging fruit? Or like if someone says, well, what's like the default task? What's something I could put a VA to this month? What's your answer?
Yeah, I think that I would say the phones, but also from a social media perspective, we're in this society of instant gratification and response. And so just the massive communication, I wouldn't just leverage it just on phones, but just the communication, whether it be emails, social media posts, are a key thing. So that really, that client, what I would refer to as that client relations assistant. And I'll send you, Robert, what we put together, the 250 tasks that a VA can do for you right now. And so client relationship management, accounting, bookkeeping, an executive assistant to help you with your managing human resources, even from a project management, social media, website design. Those things are key, right? That you can be delegating tasks. What I always talk to my clients about, tell me what's limiting your dreams right now. What's your biggest pain point? And let us take care of what I refer to the eating, and you do the dreaming, right? And the dreaming being what it is to grow your business. I mean, I've seen huge situations with clients that have leveraged, folks to do email management and executive assistants to free up their business and their executives to go do what's most important, is to build those relationships with clients, take the business to the next level, and not be bogged down in those day-to-day mundane tasks that you can quite easily delegate and have a virtual assistant or anybody handling, or even like yourself from a podcast management perspective, or handling your IT. Those are all key items that I think are huge opportunities for folks to be able to leverage a remote working team.
I love it. And you're touching on what I think is the number one missed opportunity for a business owner, is that separating the tiers, the levels, right? And where there's like the worker levels, kind of the grunt work, and there's like a manager level, and then there's kind of like the boss owner visionary level. And it seems like so few people are in denial about this, aren't they? About how just the switching gears from doing the work and planning ahead, and it's like, well, then you just end up falling into doing all the work, and it's like your team should do the work while you plan ahead and you grow the business while the team manages the business. And that's such a simple concept, but so many of us are in denial about this. And so sort of along those lines, as far as like the common mistakes you see happen, right, with either in small businesses or service businesses or virtual assistants or like anything, do you see like a number one common mistake that just really makes you mad?
It's a great, I do. And here's what I think is what makes me mad. You try and touch on a little bit, Robert, is the concept of a robot. And so what tends to happen is when we get engaged with a client and they get started in the first week, they're like frustrated. It's like, how come they don't get it? And it's like, well, if you were to hire somebody to come work in your business and sit in your office, how much time would you give them to get up to speed? How much training would you provide them? And it's the same thing when you bring on somebody who's a remote worker as part of your team. There's some time you need to spend up front, like any system, get them aligned with your processes. And what we encourage our clients to do is put them through some training in the first couple of days. And we have an onboarding portal that you can take the team through, record that training. So when you bring on number 2 or number 3 or number 4 VA, they take the training and they're ready to go and run. And they understand how you like phone calls answered. They understand how you do email management, how you respond to clients, or how you handle bookkeeping, things of that nature. So some of the frustrations that we find is in the first week or so that folks are like, this is just not working out. But what we've done is we've provided onboarding specialists and account managers to work with their clients to kind of help them through those first few weeks, get them ingratiated, help the virtual assistant, a remote team member get working, as well as the client to get comfortable, build that relationship. And then really after that, it's amazing because we've had about a 98% client retention rate. So once they get started, it's fantastic, right? They love it. And as I said, almost 20% of our clients are adding additional services every month. I mean, we are just, as a bit of a sense of the business, we're adding about 50 to 75 clients a month and about 150 to 200 virtual assistants to our team every month. So there's a huge demand and there's a huge growth and capability that I think we can provide.
Yeah, and I love your mindset. I love these KPIs that you have, where sometimes people say, well, our goal is this amount of income or this number of customers, but you're just saying like, we're growing the team, we're growing the clients by this month. And that's amazing. That just goes to show how once you free up the day-to-day and the putting out fires, and you just really put that brain power to work as far as the post-scarcity tasks, such as this, right? Such as being on a podcast. If you were busy doing all the tasks, you wouldn't have time to do these things that raise the profile of your company. And so what I'm kind of getting from your answers here is that there is like a period of difficulty to be crossed, right? When you get a new hire, then you need to have some amount of patience for them to learn these things. And then they need to document what it is that they do. That way for hire number 2 and number 3, then it can become a smoother process. And you kind of have this kind of abundance mindset and this optimism that it will work out despite the challenges sometimes and the frustrations, because on the other side of training that team and having them figuring out the way you want to do things and how you want the phones to be done, then on the other side of that, then you can really just go to town and pour some gasoline on the fire. And so I really want to make sure that we touch on, is there anything that has been unexpected or surprising in your journey, or is there just anything about this whole virtual assistant thing that maybe people don't talk about enough?
Yeah, I think they don't talk about the ability to really grow exponentially. I think folks tend to limit themselves today on what's around them and what they're comfortable with. And staffing, when I talk to business executives, the 4 main things that really struggle. 2 of them are around staffing, finding staff and keeping staff. The 3rd is around technology. And we're really able to help those 3 things really help them expand. And then the 4th is cost control. And so I think we have a solution for all of those. And folks realizing that you can really expand your business, and to your point, being able to delegate and comfortably delegate to team members that may not be sitting right next to you. And also the ability that the options are limitless on what you can do when you start stepping back and thinking about what really drives our business, what's most important to get business success, and then thinking about, okay, what is the best work I'm doing to improve that, and what is work that I could be leveraging other team members to get done. And so that's probably been my biggest surprise, as well as I'll tell you the stories I hear from our clients on how, when I get to talk to them after they've leveraged a team for 3-6 months, how much of a difference it's had, not only in their work life, but in their family life. And you talked about, the doctor at the beginning about not making money till 2 o'clock. I talked to doctors about, I was ready to throw up my hands and quit. I mean, in the medical space, is about a 48% burnout rate. To be able to come alongside a doctor or a business entrepreneur and allow them to fulfill the dreams that they did when they started the business, and not throw up their hands and go, look, I just can't find anybody. Nobody wants to work. It's costing too much. I've just had enough. And then to be able to really hear them say, thank you. This is a life-changing thing for me, not only for work, but also I get to spend more time with my family, and it's enriched my life holistically. That's what I've really been impressed and blessed by the opportunity to do. And as leading this company as president and CEO, that's what really gets me up and jazzed every day.
Amazing. Yeah, that's got to be very motivating for you to hear those stories like that. And so I'm also retaining in my head these sort of four buckets you mentioned, right? There's the issue of finding the talent, keeping the talent, getting them hooked into the technology, and then the cost control. That way it all works together, and that way it becomes something that frees you up and does not add to the stress, because you have to figure that the average business owner or average doctor, they've probably been subconsciously resisting this VI idea for all this time, because they think, well, it's going to add to my stress. It's going to give me more to worry about. And maybe at first, but then once it becomes a smooth system, and once they get help from a company such as you, who has pre-vetted them and kind of knows all the ways things can go wrong, instead of them just like figuring something new out, instead they're going to you, and you've already solved many of these problems, and they're just implementing your system. And so the whole point of you being here is to mention your business and to plug this amazing kind of venture that you have going on. So tell us about MedVA, BizVA, and MyOrthoVA. If someone has been kind of getting these insights, ahas from our conversation, and they say, I want to know more, I want to take the next step, where do they go? What do they do? What's the offer?
Fantastic. Well, you can go to our website, which is the best way. It says medva.com, medva.com, bizva.com, that's bizva.com, or myorthova.com. And MyOrtho is focused just in the orthodontic space. So for your listeners that are in the orthodontic space, we've carved out a niche bespoke solution for them. But really, you can go to those places. We're on all social media platforms. And what I would tell your listeners is, give it a try. We'd love to get to know you. We'd love to learn, what are the things that are holding you back? What are the pain points you have? Because as I mentioned, I feel like we have the solution. And as I said, it's really been a game changer for a number of our clients to be able to leverage remote workforce to continue to drive productivity and growth, and to relieve stress in regards to their business and how it goes, particularly in the medical space, but also in the business community. I mean, I think the business community is a little more savvy with this model, because they've been using it for a little longer. But that's not to say there's not continue to be more and more opportunities. I know for myself, as I talk to colleagues in the industry, there are tasks that are mundane that are done every day that clearly can be leveraged and delegated to others, just to free up their life, to really create that mental space to be making the best decisions for their company to grow forward. And I would tell them, if you're not doing this, you're really limiting the growth of your business.
I love it. That's amazing and awesome. And I agree with you completely. You're limiting the growth of your business by not having this mental space freed up. And like I said, Chris, like it took me way too many years to finally be sold on this idea. I have 10 full-time employees right now, but it just took me, like, I told myself, like, I need to keep hearing this idea. I need to keep speaking to people like you who have really made the whole VA thing work. And I need to power through some of those like initial failed attempts. And like what almost got me there once was someone kind of telling me that, well, it's addicting. Once you you resist it, you hire someone and you say, oh, there's these couple of tasks. I don't know if I have enough for them to do. And you realize like, whoa, I was doing way more work than I thought I was. And there's all these like mundane tasks or things that fell by the wayside. And then they do all these tasks and you're like, now I want to hire number 2 and number 3. And it's like, once you start rolling, it becomes really exciting. And what finally pushed me over the edge to actually like take this whole VA thing seriously was like speaking to someone like you who was just excited about the possibilities, because it's so easy to focus on the negativity and the costs and all these other kind of downsides. But then I started talking to people like you who had fun building and growing a team and setting up the structure and saying like, hey, now this is a business that kind of in a lot of ways runs itself and is not dependent on you, and you can someday sell it. It was all very exciting stuff. So if those podcast listeners are as excited as I was back then, and re-excited by speaking to you, Chris, the time now is to go to medva.com or bizva.com or myorthova.com. And so while someone is heading right there to those websites, Chris, do you have a favorite quote, moral, or lesson that you can share with us today to really wrap things up, to really bring it home? What comes to mind for a quote, moral, or lesson?
Fantastic. Think about what's most important to you and to your business and focus in on that, and allow you to do better with less. And so what I mean by that, with less of your time focus on what you can do better, and allow those to do what they do better as well.